Japanese island holds disaster drill in Shadow of Taiwan threat. Los Angeles braces for transportation crisis due to fire damage. Germany set to double Ukraine military aid. US, Japan and South Korea defense chiefs to share North Korea missile data. US and Indonesia to discuss potential for deal on EV minerals. World's biggest bank hit by cyberattack. Australia port operator restarting operations after cyberattack. Tens of thousands protest across Spain at proposed Catalan amnesty.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Tuesday, November 14th, and here are your top stories. Japan on Sunday conducted a tsunami evacuation drill on its westernmost island, an exercise that could also help residents respond to an emergency arising from any attempt by China to take control of nearby Taiwan. About 200 island officials and members of Japan's self-defense force took part in the exercise on Yonaguni, but SDF helicopters and landing craft from ships that had sailed more than 1,000 kilometers from the main Japanese islands were unable to join the exercise because of strong winds.
Today's exercise was about natural disaster preparedness, but it also gives people something to think about that may come in useful later in a Taiwan emergency.
The mayor of Yonaguni, Kenichi Itokazu, told officials at the island's town hall at the start of the drill, "We can't choose the time when we will face a disaster. We have to think about the worst thing that can happen and plan for that." The Yonaguni official in charge of preparing the island's 1,700 residents for disasters, Koji Sugama, said the community also had to be prepared for the danger of conflict. Sugama said, "A disaster drill also gives people something to think about that will come in useful in a Taiwan emergency."
Los Angeles drivers have been warned of significant travel headaches after a major fire over the weekend forced the indefinite closure of a downtown portion of Interstate 10, one of the city's major traffic arteries. According to the Los Angeles Fire Department, a raging fire at a storage yard early last Saturday that spread under the freeway ignited a second storage facility, ultimately consuming about 80,000 square feet and destroying several vehicles. There is no estimated timeline for reopening the stretch of the busy interstate.
Secretary Buttigieg called and wanted me to assure the people of Los Angeles that the White House stands with us as we work to rebuild, and they have committed to ensure us that there will be no...
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass described the closure as a crisis, urging travelers to brace for delays and plan alternative routes as the interstate remains shut down in both directions in downtown Los Angeles near Alameda Street. She warned Sunday that the issue is not going to be resolved in 1 or 2 days. California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for Los Angeles County due to the closure. The cause of the blaze is being investigated by the state fire marshal.
A political source in Berlin said last Sunday German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's governing coalition has agreed in principle to double the country's military aid for Ukraine next year to 8 billion euros. The source added if approved by Parliament, where Scholz's parties hold a majority, the boost will lift Germany's defense spending to 2.1% of its gross domestic product target, beyond the 2% pledged by all North Atlantic Treaty Organization members.
The source said lawmakers from Scholz's Social Democrats, the Free Democrats, and the Green Party agreed on the increase in negotiations over the proposed 2024 federal budget ahead of a formal meeting of the Budget Committee of the lower house of Parliament on Thursday, November 16. Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said, "It is a strong signal to Ukraine that we will not leave them in the lurch."
South Korea's defense ministry said last Sunday that defense chiefs from South Korea, Japan, and the United States have agreed to start as planned a real-time data sharing scheme on North Korean missiles in December. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol last Sunday called for the maintenance of readiness posture by the South Korean and the U.S. military forces in case of any provocations by North Korea, including a Hamas-style surprise attack. A U.S.-Korea security consultative meeting scheduled to be held on Monday.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met his South Korean counterpart, Shin Won-sik, in Seoul last Sunday, with Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara joining the meeting online. Kihara told reporters the ministers discussed strengthening their three-way cooperation in the face of severe security environments. U.S. President Joe Biden agreed with Yoon and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at an August 18 summit that by the end of this year the three countries would share North Korea missile warning data in real time.
According to three people with direct knowledge of the conversations, the United States and Indonesia on Monday will discuss how to advance a potential minerals partnership aimed at stimulating trade of the electric vehicle battery metal nickel. According to one of the people, next steps that could move the countries toward formal negotiations on the partnership will be discussed when Indonesian President Joko Widodo visits the White House for a meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday.
Indonesia, which has the world's biggest nickel ore reserves, in September asked the United States to begin discussions for a trade deal for critical minerals so that exports from the Southeast Asian country can be covered under the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. Most of Indonesia's nickel is processed into crude metal, but the government is keen to develop an EV supply chain to use the vast reserves of nickel, which can be processed into battery materials.
The U.S. Financial Services Division of Chinese bank ICBC was hit with a cyber attack that reportedly disrupted the trading of Treasuries. ICBC, the world's largest lender by assets, said Thursday that its financial services arm, called ICBC Financial Services, experienced a ransomware attack that resulted in disruption to certain systems. ICBC said it has been conducting a thorough investigation and is progressing its recovery efforts.
ICBC said it successfully cleared U.S. Treasury trades executed last Wednesday and repo financing trades done last Thursday. A repo is a repurchase agreement, a type of short-term borrowing for dealers in government bonds. However, multiple news outlets reported there was disruption to U.S. Treasury trades. The Financial Times, citing traders and banks, said Friday that the ransomware attack prevented the ICBC division from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants.
Australia's biggest ports operator, which has been the target of a cyber attack, has begun gradually restarting its operations, but key exports could be subject to prolonged delays. DP World Australia closed its Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Fremantle port operations after detecting the breach last Friday. On Monday, Director of the Freight and Trade Alliance Paul Zalay said limited operations had resumed with DP World's docks at Brisbane and Fremantle moving through imports and exports.
However, Zalay said its docks in Sydney and Melbourne were only dealing with imports on Monday. While the full extent of the outage is still unclear, Zalay said operations as of Monday suggested the disruptions would not significantly affect the flow of goods for Christmas shopping. Australia's cybersecurity coordinator, Air Marshal Darren Goldie, told ABC's RN Breakfast on Monday it was still a live incident. He said DP World had some redundancy to allow them to retrieve certain sensitive cargo.
Tens of thousands of people protested across Spain last Sunday across acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's plans to grant amnesty to Catalan separatists in exchange for support for another term in office. The government secured a deal with Catalan separatist party Junts last Thursday, which includes passing a contentious law granting amnesty to those convicted over Catalonia's attempt to secede from Spain in 2017. The deal sent shockwaves around the country.
The media reported Sanchez's conservative opponents accusing him of putting the rule of law on the line for his own political gain. People's Party leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo told a cheering crowd, "We will not shut up until there are new elections." Authorities said 80,000 people turned out in Madrid while the People's Party, which had called for protests in cities across Spain, put the total closer to 1 million. Many held Spanish and EU flags, as well as banners with slogans including "Respect the Constitution."
The answer for yesterday was B, likelihood. The likelihood is that unemployment figures will continue to fall. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Los Angeles bracing for transportation crisis due to fire damage. Number 1, indefinite, 无限期的，期限不定的. She will be away for the indefinite future. Number 2, ignite, 点燃，着火， His words ignited their anger. Number 3. Ultimately, 最终,最后. A poor diet will ultimately lead to illness. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.